Hello and welcome to the show. And today we're going to talk about sky high rents. How high can rents go? Well, sky is the limit. Sky high rents. Is it for PWD? Well, PWD, they don't get enough for market rent. Why is that? We're going to talk more about that coming up next. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone, and welcome to PWD Allies podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe, like, and share the content that you are viewing or you're hearing today. Check it out on your favorite podcast. Yeah, so today, my name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and hope you're enjoying the show. As usual, we put out great content, and we hope that people enjoy the content that you're about to hear. Because today we're going to talk about sky high rents. And also today is Valentine's Day. Yes, Valentine's Day, February 14th. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Neil, that's great.
Yeah. You know what? Today, Valentine's Day, it's the 20th anniversary of YouTube.
Oh wow!
YouTube was launched on Valentine's Day. 2005, because it originally launched as a dating app or a dating site.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so that was 20 years ago today. So
that's interesting. I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
And another thing before we get going, there was another reason why I did this is because yes it's Valentine's Day, but it's also that we love all our subscribers. And guess what? Yesterday, we just hit 2,000 subs.
Oh my, that's amazing.
So yeah,
that's really awesome.
And we love every one of you. So thank you for subbing.
Thank you very much.
Keep subbing and liking and
pass it on to your friends.
It out, yeah.
And your allies. Definitely, it all helps to build up our viewership and to keep putting out our great content. And I hope you're all enjoying your day. And today we're going to be talking about sky high rents. That's what today's episode is going to be about. We're going to be diving into persons with disabilities paying sky high rents. In the province of British Columbia and across our Canada, rents are skyrocketing. They're really high in BC and Ontario, almost comparison in the pricing really for what the buying power is based on PWD income versus what you can afford for rent. Now, rent is actually goes over top of basically what you can even have for market rent. Like you can't even get your whole check to cover what market rent is for persons with disabilities on income assistance. Basically disability supports from your provincial government, whatever province that you're in that has a disability designation. They do not provide enough for rent. Some provinces have that two-tiered system on your same payout. I mean, it's one check, but they have it divided into categories where there's shelter versus support. Well, you go to a corporate landlord and you say, well, this is what I have for income. They're going to look at that amount and they're going to say, well, can you afford that rent? Well, I say, well, yeah, I mean, I'll pay my rent. I mean, I need a roof over my head. They'll say, well, what do you have left to live on? I mean, so now that's where the number crunching comes down. So if you're needing to rent with a roommate, or a friend, basically split the cost, right? So your basically your utilities, your rent, food, bills, whatever comes in, with that. But then there's also the fact that most places are requiring tenant insurance. Now that's a huge cost, and a lot of corporate landlords will not. I mean, and I'll repeat, will not rent to you unless you have tenant insurance. They will need you to provide proof to them and show them that you have tenant insurance before they'll even rent to you. So now that's another barrier right there, because the landlord's going to be kind of skeptical about wanting to rent in the first place to PWD because their income is too low in order to afford that high market rent. So there's a problem there. So if you don't have your tenant insurance, they won't rent. So now you're stuck where you're living in precarious housing. Maybe you need to move. And where are you going to move to? Well, the rents are, they're always going higher. They're never going lower. I know there's a recent article that's been posted out saying rents are coming down. Yes, they are coming down, and I can vouch for that. Yes, but they're coming down from the high end cost at the very high end. So the ones that are like $4,000, $5,000 a month, yes, they're dropping down. They are dropping down on other tier levels down where rents were like $2,600, $2,500. They've dropped down maybe $80, $100. In some cases, I've seen them come down to $100. But the fact is, why they're coming down is that people cannot afford those high market rents. They're sky high, and people can't afford them because the cost of living keeps going up. So now people are having to move out of those places. Now they're vacant. Corporate landlords love it because when they're vacant, they can actually jack the price up. Maybe put a coat of paint on it, change the lock, maybe put a new faucet on in the kitchen or your washroom. Perhaps put some new tiling in. Maybe swap out an old stove or a fridge, maybe a used one. Make it look nice and shiny. Hey, look, we renovated it. But the problem is the rents will go up way, way up beyond a person's means and what they can afford. So there is the problem there because PWD's income, like I say, it does not match the cost of market housing. The government in each province will say, well, we've got subsidized housing. We're building housing. You're not building enough housing for the amount of clients that need that housing. And again, even if you are building enough housing, people should be able to live in the sector of housing that they want to live in. So if you're living in the private sector, maybe you love living in the private sector and you love your neighbors around you. You don't want to move, or you love the community that you're in. You just want to move to another building. Well, with the housing providers, they're contracted out by the provincial government to a corporation that provides other subsidized housing underneath that umbrella. Mm-hmm. So they now say, well, you need to live in the community that they're actually going to provide that housing for. If you say no, they'll give you a couple chances. If you say no, that housing doesn't meet my needs, or I don't want to move all the way up to Prince George or Kelowna or somewhere like that.
I just saw in the, and I'm sure you've seen this too, Brent, because it's kind of been an ongoing developing story. But the city of Richmond just kiboshed some social housing project, right?
Yes, they did.
And why was that? It was because originally the plans were for it to have access to safe supply drug detox or whatever I want to call it. That was going to be part and parcel to this social housing project, and City of Richmond said no, thank you. And they killed it. And your friend and mine, Ravi Kalan, said, how dare the city do this? Don't they know that social housing is a good thing? And yes it is. But let's talk some real truth here. The NDP has really put their foot in it as far as their social strategies for the whole drug problem. It was EB himself that legalized all this safe supply shit to begin with, and it's been nothing but problems. But he's like, well, he'll just say, well, it's not my fault. He gaslights everybody else. Like there was this report came out recently, that all the safe supply stuff was being trafficked around, by drug dealers, and it was a known report. It was brought out, and the NDP started like blaming everybody, like, who brought this leak out,
Yeah, it's a 2-year report that was sitting there for 2 years, and they were told in the report that it wasn't working. The product wasn't working.
And their only response was who leaked it? Who leaked it? And it was just like, oh man.
And housing is such a dynamic situation where trying to get the people the housing that they need. There's supportive housing, there's social housing, definitely there's co-op housing, there's private market sector housing. People rent from condominiums, they rent from basement suites, and I think people should be able to live in the kind of housing that they want, but have the proper means in order to provide the rent to their landlords. Or their property management company. And I agree that there needs to be supports in place, definitely for people that need that extra help to get them off the streets and into housing. And the problem is that a lot of cities now, they just keep sweeping them away. They call it the street sweeps, and they take all their personal belongings, they throw it in the garbage can. They're human beings. Why are the cities doing this to people? Where just like, look at the situation, bring in some healthcare workers and work with the individuals and find out what the problem is of why are they homeless, and get them treatment that they need. Is maybe they just lost their housing because maybe the housing was condemned. It was, it was deemed unlivable.
Yeah.
Maybe it was an old place and it burned down. Maybe it was sold, so they became homeless. And now they're living in a tent, and they're treating them all the same. Yeah. It's like, move on, push them on, and then it's like pink unicorns running wild everywhere.
Yeah, and I don't know if Dan is still in chat. He was earlier. He's got the lived experience for being homeless.
Oh yeah,
homeless. I don't, and so my opening comment could be seen as like, well, you just don't understand the problem of safe supply. And maybe that's true. But I've also read a crap load, and again, this is not my opinion. It's stuff that I've read, and I've read a crap load of stuff. And I'll just give one example. My problem with safe supply is when you just give somebody safe supply and then you don't have any other wraparound supports to go with it. It's just like, here's your drugs, go to it with no other supports at all. Because again, there was a story that I came across quite a while ago, actually. There was one guy that really, really, really wanted to get off drugs. He really wanted to get off drugs. And it was here locally in Vancouver. Like he really, really, I think, he was First Nations, but he really wanted to get off drugs, like so bad. And the province just said, well, there's no programs available for you. Sorry. But here's some safe supply for you. Like, you can keep shooting up if you want. Here's some safe supply. But yeah, there's no drug treatment stuff for you. Sorry. So he took it upon himself to do a GoFundMe, I think it was. And he did a GoFundMe, and he was able to raise enough money to enroll in a program in the States. So
yes,
he went to the States to get drug treatment, because there was nothing that the BC government was going to offer him. All they were going to say to him is, here's some more drugs to shoot up.
Yeah, he didn't want that. No, he
didn't want that. He said, I want to get off the drugs.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, sorry, we're not going to give you treatment to get off the drugs, but here's more drugs for you.
Wow.
So that's my problem with the whole thing. And again, I don't pretend to have the lived experience. Like, again, Dan is in chat. He knows. he knows way more than I do. But like I said, I've read a whole crap load, and I was following this one story, and my heart went out to the guy because he was saying, I want to get off
Yeah.
drugs so bad, and the provincial government says, sorry, there's nothing for you, but here's more drugs, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's not the solution. That's not the solution.
No, exactly. You know, you have to find what the underlying problem is and actually work with the individual, work with the person. And I mean, we're all human beings. I mean, work with the person and find the best remedy for the person, and rather than pushing them on to, you know, go to another country to go and get the help that they need. There's an underlying problem there. I mean, when it comes to homelessness, I can vouch, and I've told the story before, and lived experience. I mean, and nothing compared to what Dan or what you went through. I mean, but knowing that you had a safe place to go to. When I was, I mean, we were, Sonia and myself we were homeless for what, 2 months, almost 2 months there. I mean, people say, well, that 2 months. I mean, that's nothing. I can tell you, actually, in that time frame, it was a lot. Like, it was something for us. We were scared because we didn't have, first time in my life where I didn't have a pair of keys for a place to go into. I felt like I was stripped of not having my identity, of thinking, wow, okay, I don't have any keys anymore. I don't have an address, but I had a place I could go to. And thank gosh, at the time, I have a membership, and I still have a membership with that same hotel. I struck a deal with the hotel manager, the owner at the time, rock bottom rate, and it was a flat rate. But I only had so much money to basically keep us housed. Sure, we got free breakfast in the morning. Oh, great. I mean, yeah, a place we could call home. I mean, a shower. You know, they had a fitness room in there, so we could go and use the fitness room inside there. But the amount was rock bottom rate. It was a flat rate, but we only had enough to basically keep us housed for just over a month there. And after that, we ran out of money because we still had to buy our food. I mean, so, you know, like, that amount was actually more than, well, I mean, by the time you pay your bills and buy your food, because we still had to pay our bills just because we had no home. We still had a service agreement with our providers, so we still had to pay it. Unless you void it out, and then you're going to have to go and pay a huge amount, right? So the money ran out pretty quick. And then we thought, well, there must be a place we could find to rent. Well, we ran into problems where some corporate landlords were saying, well, what is your address? Well, we couldn't give the address where we were living because we escaped where we were living due to a bed bug infestation. So yeah, I'm going to use the address that I had a bed bug infestation. So we had to go back and talk to our previous manager and say, hey, this situation. And then we were embarrassed because the manager had said, don't move into that place. Do not move in. I said, no. The manager said it's safe. It's safe. It's been cleaned up. So we took the word on the manager that it was fine to move into. So we moved into it knowing that there could be an underlying issue, but we were told the underlying issue has been fixed. It's all myth. It's all been fixed. And so, again, that was our lived experience story on that, because what we had gone through. So when I look back at it, our previous manager said, fine, you can use me as a reference going forward. That place never existed, Brent. In your mind, you block it out. It never existed. So now you got that time frame where were you living? Well, the manager, thank gosh, said he was living here. They were living here, which, you know, and I thank the manager for doing that. But then she covered our butts and said, yeah, you were living here. Well, we weren't, because what are you going to say? Yeah, well, by the way, we just up and went. We lost everything, all of our belongings. I mean, every single bit, except for some clothes we took with us. And we had to start all over again, buying everything from scratch. Like, we didn't have tenant insurance because it wasn't required back then. Going forward now, it is required in a lot of places. And of course, even if we had tenant insurance there, I mean, would that have voided the problem, bed bugs? No, I don't know. That's an issue in itself. I don't know anything about that. Maybe somebody who knows about that situation, of maybe gone through that in their life, about having to leave a place that was infested. An underlying issue before the tenant moves in. Is the corporate landlord liable for that? I mean, when you lose all your
It should
belongings,
be. It should be.
one would think so. I mean, but anyway, getting back to the story of that, where we felt very vulnerable, like we just felt we were lost, nowhere to go. So we were lucky that we actually went and stayed at Sonia's parents. They actually had made accommodation for us for a period of time. And so we had to find the first place that was going to be suitable for us to move to. We didn't want to leave the Lower Mainland. We didn't want to, because I grew up there. I mean, that was home for me. That was home. And so Sonia didn't want to go either. And because I mean, she grew up on the island. I mean, she wanted to get away from the island. I mean, that's not where she wanted to be, but that's where we ended up being. And then one thing after another, moved from place to place, and we moved back to Langley. I mean, when I talk about sky high rents, I mean, that's kind of where this kind of lies in, because sky high rents, we went and we found a place, a brand new place getting built. We moved into it. And at the time, John Horgan, back when he was the premier at the time, he was doing a rally saying SkyTrain's coming to Langley. And Sonia had heard that, oh, John Horgan's here in Langley. Wow, let's go down there. And I never in my life seen Sonia move so fast. I mean, she was just booting along. She's like, let's go. And she was just booting along. And normally it's like a 15-minute walk there. We got there in like 9 minutes.
Wow.
We got there in 9 minutes. And so we knew all the shortcuts to get down to where he was, and all his security all kind of situated around a, what do they call it? It's not a, it was like a,
Stage.
A stage. Well, it's a stage, but it's actually in the park there, and in Douglas Park. And so they have it's a neat stage actually. But anyway, so all his security are all positioned in certain areas around the stage. John saw us before his security did, and he kind of waved his hand, kind of like, yeah, I see you. And John always had an eye for people. He could spot people in the crowd, and he was so good with names. I'm amazed that John knew everybody by their name. And he showed up. My friends are here. Come on up. And his security are going antsy. They're like, oh, hang on. You're here to see. I go, John. He's waving on. So John A-OK that we walked up, and he said, careful with corporate landlords, because some of them are shady. Some of them are okay. Some of them are perfectly fine. But it's really hard to kind of really know sometimes which ones are good and which ones aren't. I said, well, this one's a good one. I mean, they're great. God rest John's soul now. People that are watching or listening to the podcast, John Horgan passed away last October of 2024 for cancer. John, I really admired his advocacy going forward. He wanted to see PWD rates increased up to no less than poverty level. That's what John told me personally on many occasions. He told me never stop advocating. You're going to find hurdles along the way. People are going to try to knock you down, tell you to slow down, quiet down, sit back in the back and just go with the ride. He says, no, you can't do that, Brent. You got to keep pushing forward. Be the front of the crowd and pull them along, and be the voice for some people that can't speak up, he said.
He left a gaping hole, didn't he? Because
he did.
When he died, I mean, I knew it was going to be different. Like it goes without saying, but I didn't like the NDP run under John Horgan versus the NDP run under David Eby. It is such a stark night and day. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable how different it is.
Oh yeah.
Just
well,
like it's like, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same. I mean, it's just so different.
Well, it is.
Everything is run totally different to what the standards that John Horgan kept are not the same standards that are being done by David Eby.
Well, it is
not even close.
Because I mean, when John had said to Sonia and I, we sat on a secret that he had told us to not repeat at the time, and it was so hard not to. And that was about restoring the supplement. When we were during COVID, BC was given a COVID supplement to help offset the cost of living going up, and COVID supplies, etc. And media had asked us in several interviews over time. Every time I turn around, there was media asking, wanted to do an interview with myself, and if Sonia wanted to participate too. And they came out and interviewed us. We were on Global News. We were on all the TV state, all the news stations, and they said, what would be the impact of having a supplement to you? Like, how would that change your life, Brent? How would, for you personally? I said, well, it would better my life. I mean, I could buy healthy food. I could afford to have the place that we're wanting to move into. And at the time, we hadn't moved in there yet. I said, but there was a place getting built, and we could move in there. We could afford that a little bit of the higher rent and a better place to live, and better my well-being, my mental capacity, my physical capacity. I mean, who knows what I might be able to do in life? Maybe I could explore other things that I might enjoy doing at the time. And yeah, I mean, maybe buy a bicycle.
Well, you know, our friend Tom always talks about this, right? Is that if you give people a floor of income,
yep,
they have that security, that confidence to go out and maybe to explore other things that they might not be willing to explore because of like, well, I can't afford to do that right now. But if they had a little bit more security, then they're like, well, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance on this. I'm gonna take a flyer on this. And you know, Tom talks about all the time of people taking flyers on opportunities if they know they have that kind of baseline of support. They're willing to take a chance. They're willing to take flyers on certain opportunities, right?
Well, and that's it, Neil. You know, having that base amount really makes a difference. And the reporters asked Sonia the same thing, saying, "Well, how would that better your life?" She goes, "Well, I can eat healthy. I mean, and maintain my diabetes, and her physical and mental health also, and her well-being in general, definitely. And you know, buying diabetes supplies, that's stuff that maybe not covered. I mean, most of it is covered, but there were a few things that she has to really watch in her life. I mean, based on what she eats to control her sugar levels. You know, so it's really important to have that balance. And so John had echoed what we had said, and so we sat on it and on that information. And as much as I wanted to repeat out to people, because they're saying, well, is there going to be a rate increase in the budget? And I don't know. Meanwhile, we knew what was going on at the time, and it was so hard to sit on that. And he says, I need to have your word, 100% guarantee you will not repeat this. And yep, mum's the word. But he said, watch out for that corporate landlord, though. You watch. And I said, that's fine, John. Just, you might want to sock away that money for a rainy day. He says, you know, just going forward. And I said, well, I mean, it's pretty hard because we're paying that now in our new rent that we got. And, you know, it's okay. But, you know, how much was the rent? And I said, well, it's a 2-bedroom and we got it for $1,510. I mean, wow. I mean, yeah, that's amazing. That's really good. And I said, yeah. I mean, imagine everyone, $1,510 for a 2-bedroom, right? I mean, unfortunately, we lost our unit, no fault of our own, in the same building. We had to move to another unit in the same building due to a manager who decided to clear out 2 floors just to make a profit and flip units over to make more commission. So we ended up moving into another unit that was $1,775, a 2-bedroom. Yeah. And of course, we had the supplement, but at the same time, while that was happening, the government had said, and John had quoted to us, so going forward, I will keep advocating and keep pushing for this to be permanent and for your rates to be indexed to the cost of living, and also bringing up to no less like the poverty level, like to a standard. And that's what John had said. I will commit to doing that. I said, okay, so you guys will be fine. You guys will be fine. And at that time, he didn't know, and we didn't know that we were going to be moving into another unit at $1,775. He said, you'll be fine at $1,510, right? So we ended up paying $1,775. We realized we could not do this. Cost of living started slowly going up. We looked around at rental prices. They were still lower than what we were paying, but they started climbing up pretty quick afterwards. So we had to make a very awkward decision because John had said, well, that program was going to come to an end. They wanted to get rid of it. It was a pilot project. It wasn't supposed to be permanent, but he realized that it was actually benefiting people, their lives for better.
It
And so
was
he wanted to,
huge. The difference was
yeah. So
huge.
that's why he advocated and he wanted to keep it going, right? So he pushed to keep it going, but he said no less than 150, maybe 175. I said, right, but what about the other 125? Well, 2 years later, after that, the 125 came in, but it only went to some PWD, not all. So if we would have had that 125 at the time and he would have left it alone, we could have still been living at the same place, even at a 1775, but we probably would have found something a little bit cheaper. We probably would have moved in, but nothing was available at the time that we could find. So we ended up having to move to Victoria. And here we are. And, on the podcast, I talk about my nasty neighbors above, and they're getting worse and worse and worse. So our corporate landlords, I mean, sky high rents, they say, well, here's a solution. Here's a solution. Move to another unit in the building and pay more rent. I go, well, can we not pay what we're paying now? No, unfortunately, it's a business. They want to have profits, right? They got to maintain their money for their shareholders and stakeholders. Or you can move to one of
So
our
they don't really care about protecting you.
No,
Like
their best interest.
they're protecting their best interest, and they're protecting the nuisance.
The other
tenant.
They want to keep the other
They protect them.
Yeah. They want us to move so they can flip our unit over, keep the problem people there, take us out, so that new people move in. They can keep on doing that same thing, keep flipping the unit over. However, we did look at another place. We're contemplating it. We're not sure. Maybe you'll get some comments under the viewers, Dan, if you're still on. There's another place that it's a little bit more than what we're paying now, but it is doable. But here's the catch: in the BC budget coming up on March 4th of 2025. There's no indication of a rent increase. I think it'll be a $0 increase. Okay.
Most likely zero. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to factor in currently that pretend that there's nothing in the budget. There's no budget. And so if we cut back on memberships, I mean, this and that, we could still do it. And it's right across from the mall. I mean, across the mall. So you've got everything there.
The location sounds really good, yeah.
All the buses are there that we need. It'll take us right downtown. So it's prime location. Our corporate landlord says, don't move. I mean, we like you. Well, don't move. The rent is going to be cheaper because in our building right now, the rent actually went up. So like an empty unit. We just found out that our manager said, well, maybe there's a unit that might come down about $50 down. They're going to talk to her boss. Well, we just found out that the rent actually went up, not down. So every time that they turn around and they can't rent it out, the rent goes up. The other place, actually, the rent is actually lower. So that actually sounds like a bargain, right? So I guess the question I'm asking to the viewers that are watching right now, if you had an opportunity to get away from neighbors that are constantly dropping things on the floor, it sounds like a bowling ball, or thumping hard on their feet, laminate flooring keeps creaking, but your manager won't do nothing about it. They say they're going to evict them next time that they make more noise. They haven't done that. And then they say, well, move to another unit and it's more expensive in the building, or you can move to another cheaper place. Would you do that? But here's the catch. The ministry in BC will not move us from a moving company unless our rent is substantially reduced. So you get this, substantially reduced from what we're paying now. Not with what the market rent is, but what we're paying currently. Tell me, can you find rent cheaper than what we're paying now?
This is the question that I posed to you the other day, and I'm curious to see if people that are listening or if they want to leave a comment. I told you that maybe what you should do is see if you can make an appointment with an occupational therapist. Like if you make a point that say Sonia has to be nearby for doctor's appointments and things like that, and that it's causing undue stress and harm to you both, like potentially maybe a note from an occupational therapist, and you present that to the ministry, that could potentially make a difference, where they might be able to say, oh, okay, if it's causing you harm, we'll kick in the moving cost. Maybe I remember I told you that in chat the other day, And I'm curious if other people listening would have the same,
Hmm.
or if anybody's had the experience with that at all.
Because what I'm thinking too, that could be an option. Because what I'm thinking in the meantime is to maybe to reduce down my mental health, Sonia's mental health. I mean, it's really affecting her, like really bad, like not good.
Yeah, well,
Like I went for a walk one day around
and
the
I
block.
know that, and I know that. That's why I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, if you had a note from an occupational therapist, and he or she could see,
Hmm.
have visual proof of the damage that's being done to
Oh,
you
it's huge.
to you both, that should be enough. I would think, but
Yeah, I mean, we just had a plumbing leak in our washroom too. We had the plumbing company come yesterday. I had to phone the day before, and everything was sopping wet underneath, and we had to throw out a bunch of stuff, valuable things that I mean, you have to replace it with, you know, with what money, you know what I mean? And I mean, not a lot of stuff, but I mean, stuff that still, I mean, it's costs, and the plumbing company fixed it. It was a very quick fix. It took them like 20 minutes, and they were done. um, it's just a valve in there. It became extremely loose over time, and it burst on the pipe. So they replaced the one part of the piping there, and put a new piece of piping in, and it was all done, all dried up. They dried it. There's a couple areas that are still a little bit damp, but I mean that's have to dry out. So, but yeah, I mean, again, I mean these things that do happen in places, and uh, knock on wood, right? Tenant insurance. Uh-oh. That's why we didn't do no filing on no claim, right? Because yeah, that would not be a good situation at this point in time. Um, again, looking at the variables, I think maybe temporarily moving to that other place. I mean, and then keep our options. Then look around and see what comes available, and maybe that will, in the meantime, help reduce Sonia's mental health. Because I went around for a walk around the block, and it's a nice neighborhood here. I will miss it. In certain ways, I'll miss it, but in certain ways, I won't. Because the other area is close to shopping. Like everything's there that we need. All your amenity, all your stores, everything that you need. But anyway, I came back, and Sonia had music turned up, and she was just yelling. Like I came in the door, she didn't hear me because she had the music on, and she was yelling, screaming at the neighbors, like, stop. She says, please stop. And what do? They escalated the sound even more. So yeah, like we're looking at the variables on our options. I mean, Sonia talked to her mother the other night, and she understands the frustration. And what's the solution? Like we don't have a solution, and yeah, I mean, there's not too many options where rents are going to go down. I mean, our corporate landlords, I mean, said, yeah, like this is your budget. This is the most that you can afford for rent, and keep in mind that each year the rent goes up, right? Percentage goes up. So if you're paying too much in rent, it's going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to afford that market rent, and then what are you going to do? So that's a good, valid point. I totally agree. But again, PWD should be able to live in the kind of housing that they want, subsidized housing or private, or the private sector, giving people the autonomy, the right decision of where they should be able to allow to live, and given the proper means of financial support by because they are medically assessed and disabled from a the practitioners, I mean, have assessed them, right? So, I mean, they are deemed as a disabled person in the province. And, I mean, it's not easy to get onto disability, just so you know, everyone who's watching this. I mean, not that people want to be. I mean, saying, oh, can I pretty please get onto disability supports? No, I fought with my family doctor. I said, no, I want to be self-sufficient. I worked all my life.
We're living the high life here,
Brent.
Yeah.
And I argued with my doctor. I said, I worked all my life. I can do this, Brent. Yeah, your mind may say yes, but your body's saying no. Like your body's saying you need to now look at your options. Yeah. And so I fought, and anyway, the conclusion was I got on, and then for my benefit, I got reassessed. Oh yeah. But let's see if the guy's still disabled enough to continue on. That was a very cruel and demeaning thing that the BC Liberal government did back then. I had
Courtesy of Gordon Campbell.
yeah, that was a courtesy of Gordon
Have to
Campbell.
kind of group him
Oh yeah, yeah,
in with Mike Harcourt is
yeah.
like
Gordon
the
Campbell, yeah, bravo, like
yeah,
yeah,
Dumb and Dumber, the two
and
of them.
I remember back then because I gave a rally a few years back, 3 years, 2 years, 2 years ago, yeah, 2 years ago. I gave a rally in front of the BC legislature, and honorable former honorable Dan Davies, he came up. He was in the crowd and he listened to my speech, and a lot of people started gathering around. Dan Davies was there, and he walked up to me and he says, "Brent, I am so sorry. I am so, so sorry." He was the only MLA out of all the parties, who said, "I am sorry. I wasn't part of that." And I said, and he goes, "That's a learning lesson for all the parties going forward to respect people with disabilities." And again, I always find thinks that like these parties say, well, we have your back. There's more to do. It's fiscal responsibility, always excuses. But like last year in 2024, there was no increase in our rates.
Yeah.
Cost of living went up. We got a rent increase. And the annual rent increase last year in 2024 was 3.5%.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to cut back. I mean, Sonia goes, "Well, where did we cut back?" I go, "Well, I guess we'll cut back on one of our memberships. Try to recoup some cost. Start cutting back on a meal. Maybe combine things. Maybe have a late lunch, early dinner. This year, there's no indication of a rent increase.
There's gonna be none. I just wanted to interrupt you, Brent, because we have Investigative Research Council in chat right now.
Hello.
So he's saying that the Fed stopped building social housing in 1970s, which is true.
Yep.
We need to get them back in the game and reach the 250,000 unit hard targets that they used to hit. And that's 100% correct, because a comment that I was going to make earlier is, the amount of housing that the provincial governments are doing now. I mean, we've talked before too. We had a podcast devoted to just this not too long ago. We were talking about David Abe's BC Builds plan and how it was going to have this huge influx of all the social housing and affordable housing, right? But what it turned out to be was all this housing with average rents of like $4,000, $3,000 to $4,000 each. That was the bulk of the housing that was made available because, like all these private investors that make the housing, they want to turn a profit, right? So there's like, well, if we have all this affordable housing, there's no profit in that. So we're sorry, but the units that we have available are all $3,000 to $4,000 rents. And so
exactly.
And so again, like it's been a couple of shows now where I've said, that governments, whether it's provincial or federal, they have to get in. You talk about changing the mindset, right? But they have to get into their mind of like, we don't like, let's get off the idea of needing to turn a profit. Like let's just do something to do something, and not worry about the bottom line as much. Like just build the stuff and like I said, be prepared to take a loss. If it's a privately owned corporation, or where it's kind of quasi public private, like we've said with TransLink and things like that.
Yeah.
They're all concerned about profit and the bottom line, right? So but if you have something that's entirely in the government hands, 100%, they're going to be worried about the legislate sheet too, but maybe not as much, right? They can afford to take the bullet. They can afford to take the hit. And I think that's what governments need to do now. They need to afford to take the hit on, let's just build a whole shitload of houses for whatever X amount of dollars, whatever it costs, and just do it. you know?
I mean, my motto is always to have people housed, and give them the dignified respect that everyone deserves to have housing. I mean, housing should never be treated as a commodity. I mean, it never. I mean, it never was many decades ago. But the corporate greed has allowed it to blossom. I can vouch for it here. I mean, it's like, management gloats saying, well, there's another unit over. We saw, a couple months ago, and 3 months ago now, and it's still sitting empty. And oh well, the owner's taking $80 hit. Sorry, we can't give it to you for what you're paying now. Really? Okay, well, can we come to a happy medium? Maybe maybe 1,600, maybe 1,650. Oh no, like I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean we can't do that. But meanwhile, it's still sitting empty. Yeah, I mean, and they wanted $1,875 for the unit. They took an $80 hit. I mean, wow, why not just take a loss and have a reliable, dependable tenant who's not going to cause any problems? I mean, you're going to make the money back in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
But it tells me that it's all about greed. They want to look at the most potential that they can make, and then they say, oh well, we're not renting it out, so we're going to crank up the rent even higher. Yeah. Like, so now that unit is now $1,900. $1,900 now because they couldn't rent it out. Well, I mean, that makes no logical sense to me. So again, definitely all sorts of housing needs to get built. There's some cities they'll call it below market rental housing, right? Well, what is below market rental? I mean, is it affordable to like $3,000, $4,000 below market rental?
They don't have a fixed definition that they're following, right? They should be following a fixed definition of a LICO amount or something like that.
Yeah,
in Surrey, or like 30% of your income is what affordable housing should be set at.
Yeah, and there's a problem, and that's the CMHC. There's a problem in their formula that they have there. So CMHC, you need to kind of reevaluate your formula and actually maybe modernize things, right? And actually look at the situation because it's not working. Like, I know, it doesn't matter. I can talk to any neighbors. They'll say, oh, well, it should be 30% of your income. My mummy and I used to talk about that all the time. Well, Brent, it should be 30% of your income. Like, I'd be working full time in this restaurant. It was a 50s, 60s diner at the time. It was pretty cool. They were awesome employers to work for at the time.
Did they have any Elvis impersonators?
No, but they played a lot of Elvis music there. They did. Okay. They played a lot. They had jukeboxes and everything, eh? So I'd come through and I'd put a quarter in there, and they would actually pump through the whole place, and they would go into the kitchen and through the dining room, and they got so mad with me. Turn it off! Because they got tired of the same tune. I'm like, no, I love this certain song. So, but anyway, long story short, I mean, I'd get home. I'd have my paycheck. I'd get home, and I could cash it. And my mom would say, well, 30% of your income, Brent. 30% of your income to rent. I go, well, and I said, well, why don't I just give you an extra $50? I said, because, I mean, my mom was struggling. I mean, she, was a single mother and brought me and my brother up. And I saw she was struggling because trying to get bargain, she'd buy case lot sales. And so I knew it would cost a little bit more upfront, right? But long-term effect is that it would be balanced out. But initially she needed more. So, here's an extra $50. Well, no, that's not fair. You're paying more than 30% of your income now. I said, don't worry about it. That's fine. I said, either I give you that or I take you out for dinner. Oh, come on. She would not take no as an answer. And she would argue back and forth. And she said, Brent, stop it. So funny. I managed to, she had her wallet right there. So I got $50 and I tucked it into her wallet because she kept saying no. But I mean, I guess the point is that I always felt I needed to pay my fair share. Yeah. I needed to thought that what was fair, right? And but she said 30%. It doesn't matter later in life when you go and live in an apartment, it should be 30%, no more. And when the government's allowing PWD, provincial government, you're allowing PWD to pay corporate landlords more than 30% of our income.
Well, yeah, like 100% of your check is going towards the rent, and it's not even covering it.
Yeah, meanwhile you say, oh, but if you don't like it, go and move to BC Housing. Go and live in there. Oh, go on a 20-year waiting list. Yeah. But you can't just go to BC Housing if there wasn't a waiting list. Oh, yeah, as long as if everybody's in a relationship, then they can go and live in there. But if you're not in a relationship, you cannot move in there.
Yeah. So
There's a
again, as a follow up to Investigative Research Council's earlier comment,
yeah.
I mean, yes, provincial governments are building the odd, affordable housing project, but it's just a handful of them, right? So
Just a handful.
so you have like, they'll have one building and they'll say, well, here's 20 units that are available for,
Or 14. There was one that was 14.
Yeah, 14 units for PWD
Yeah.
in a new building. And it's like, well, great, that's 14 people out of like how many thousands,
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not really helping, right?
No,
So,
or let's say well, we have one bedroom units, or not two bedroom units, one bedroom units, and yeah, like it doesn't work. They're not, the government's not listening to lived experience stories. And I mean, you gotta, be in the shoes of a person with disabilities, be in our lives. Listen to us. Don't listen to all your stakeholders and all your investment specialists who figure they know everything. You're giving people the proper means to make that decision where they want to live. Bring them up to a standard of living. It's not difficult. You gave yourselves all those increases, every single 47 MLAs. You all got those increases.
Well, and talking about that, Brent, sorry.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to end off on that. That was going to be my closing comment.
I must be reading your mind.
Yeah, closing comment was going to be that because, EB made sure, David E. made sure that everybody else got paid, like all his people got paid, he got paid.
Yep.
And now that I'm on Twitter again, or as our show is on Twitter, like the PWD podcast, we have a Twitter account now.
Yeah.
I hadn't been on Twitter for a couple of years, but now that I'm on, I actually, there's the odd thing I come across that I just have to kind of quote tweet it. And there's one that I quote tweeted on the account recently, and it's from IMO GHF. And so I'm thinking, well, what does that mean? I'm thinking it means, like, in my opinion, glass half full, probably something like that. So it's IMO GHF. So in my opinion, glass half full. I think that's probably what it means. But anyway, so this person put this in a tweet, and I quote tweeted it because I thought it was brilliant. It says the NDP lied like sidewalks. The NDP lied like sidewalks during the election daily. Lying is a feature, not a bug of the NDP. I'm always astonished that anyone votes for them. And I love that. So I just had to quote tweet it because I loved it. And then so I went to this account of the IMO GHF, and on the what do you call it, the bio or the first line of the account.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Yeah. Basically the bio line or something.
Yeah, the bio. Yeah.
On the bio line, they had this person had this quote from Terry Glavin, and I'll get into who Terry Glavin is because he's a beat writer, but like basically a journalist. But I'll get into him a little bit later. But this is a quote from Terry Glavin, and this quote is on the bio line of this other Twitter account. And I love this because I'm a truther, right? Like everybody knows that I'm a truther, and it's all about truth. It says, and this says again from Terry Glavin. It says, it isn't just that the truth doesn't seem to matter, but that the truth not mattering doesn't seem to matter.
Oh, yes.
So I'll say that again because I thought it was just brilliant.
Oh.
It isn't just that the truth doesn't seem to matter, but that the truth not mattering doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're at today, right? It's
totally.
It's like the truth has become irrelevant to so many things, and I just wanted to say that this Terry Glavin, who's attributed to this quote, he's an author and journalist.
Brilliant.
He writes currently for the Ottawa Citizen newspaper. He writes for the National Post. He used to write for the Vancouver Sun, the Globe and Mail, the Georgia Straight, and the Tyee. So we know of
Yeah.
all those publications, right, or newspapers. And so I just thought both of those things were brilliant. What was said, and I just
Very
wanted
good.
to end on a comment of John Rustad, who recently had a really good comment, based on everything that kind of EB has done. And remember that EB promised this whole $1,000 grocery rebate.
Oh,
That was the big election promise, and then he's like,
oh
"Oops,
yeah.
whoops, sorry, we can't do it. We can't do it now."
Yeah,
So
immediate help. Eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a comment from John Rustad, a quote from John Rustad. He says, "The fiscal problem, the $9.5 billion deficit, and remember that EB inherited." He inherited, it was a $6.5 billion surplus. Remember?
I remember that.
It was a
Yes.
$6.5 billion surplus. So EB has eaten through $16 billion in 2 years' time. Think about
Wow.
that. In 2 years' time,
Wow.
he's burned through $16 billion. Anyway, so here's the quote again. The fiscal problem, the $9.5 billion deficit, this is all known, and nothing has changed on that. So why now suddenly not the tax relief? The reality is very simple. This government, meaning the BC NDP, has been fiscally irresponsible. They are spending way beyond their means. They made promises during the election simply to get elected, and it's unfortunate that they have gaslighted the population on so many different issues. End quote. And again, this is from John Rustad, the leader of the BC Conservatives.
You know what I was going to use the $500 for, because it was based on per family, so $500 each. I was going to use that to go and buy tenant insurance. Yeah, which is mandatory in order to rent in the province of British Columbia in a lot of corporate landlords. So, bravo.
Yeah.
You know,
And I would have used that money. I would have used that money to pay for my property tax, because my property tax is coming up too.
yeah, and I would have bought maybe some healthy food and bought some other minerals that I need to get because you have to qualify through the ministry in order to get a supplement. That you have to have a certain condition in order to get the certain supplements. So I was going to buy a few things with that, and so yeah, I mean, what was the point making a promise if you can't commit to it, and saying, well, well, it was because of the ongoing dispute that's in the horizon. I mean, yeah, everyone knows what's going on there, so I'm not even going to get into what's going across Canada. The inevitable, what's going to happen, right? But again, that deficit was inherited before. Okay, so these other things are going to get added on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
What about taking care of the citizens? I mean, I look at why, okay, people they're suffering right now. They're living in legislative poverty. People who have never lived in legislative poverty before are now living they're living the now. They're living in legislative poverty. I mean, I've had some of my neighbors who were making six-figure salaries. Now they're living in legislative poverty. I mean, one person had a grilled cheese sandwich and a bowl of chicken noodle soup for dinner. I mean, nothing wrong with that. It's one of my favorites, really. I mean, to be honest, but they never thought they would actually be living like that or skipping a meal. I mean, and nothing wrong, like I say, nothing wrong with, having that. I mean, people say, well, I mean, I eat that all the time. I mean, that's great, right? I mean, having a balanced diet. I mean, eating certain things that maybe we probably shouldn't eat sometimes, and some things we do. I mean, don't always agree with my tummy, but some people have to go without meals, right? And there are now people that are finding that out really, really fast. Imagine living on disability supports in BC or any other province in Canada and not given the proper financial support. So the people that are suffering right now, okay, imagine living even lower than that, what you're suffering right now, and having to pay high market rent, and then having your government make excuses of going a year, skip a year. We raised the rates since we've been in government. It's all rhetoric. That's all kind of like saying, yeah, I hear you, but not right now. What I want to see is all those wage increases that the government gave all those MLAs. Right now is the opportunity of taking it back and saying, look, you know what? We're going to show leadership. We're not going to give all those raises. We're going to claw them back. We're going to claw them back. Okay. That's the clawbacks, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows about clawback.
They've been doing that for me for 12 years now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I mean,
like,
why not just
fair
claw
is
back?
fair, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Fair is fair.
Yeah.
Because it would actually show responsibility. If you can't give a proper increase, I mean, what am I going to do? Tell my corporate landlord again? Sorry. Where do I cut back? My government decided not to give me an increase again. It's not a good look, right? And managers are going to start getting pissed off because now people are going to start losing their homes. They're going to start having to go and look at finding tents. I mean, tents. I mean, it's scary, but reality is that things are going to have to change. Government, please, keep people housed, not unhoused, because I can see more people becoming unhoused. I got a young lady who lives 4 doors down, who I bump into ever so often. She's a PWD. She's scared as hell because her place needs to be renovated. Okay. And the fact is that she's scared that if she is told that she has to temporarily relocate somewhere else and that the option moving back in, she's going to have to pay more money. Her income is not going higher. She said that she may have to go and live in her vehicle. Is that going to be kosher? No.
Yeah.
Continue. Neil, I was going to mention is that there was another quick segment I want to quickly cram into this segment, which I think is very important for our viewers to hear, is about a rally. But yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, now I'm going to get lost now. What I was going to say is, again, this might seem like a throwaway comment, but hopefully it's a little bit profound because I've always thought that, usually if you do the right thing, it works out. So, because I mean, let's face it, governments across the country. I mean, we can just talk about BC here because we're both in BC. So let's just focus on BC for the moment because that's what we two are familiar with.
Yeah.
But we can apply that through all Canada, I'm sure. But just to take BC for an example, it's been over 30 years now, where you can say that the BC government has kind of deliberately done the wrong thing on purpose with regard to the PWD file, right?
Oh yeah.
With the whole
hands down
the whole clawback thing, and it used to be pensions, and it's not pensions anymore. It's a whole system based on punishment. All you can't live together, you can't get married, you can't leave the province. There's all this kind of slap your wrist for being a bad PWD, all this kind of stuff, right? It's
for being a resident of British Columbia.
Yeah, it's 30 years of very punitive, almost hateful legislation, right? And so again, this is 30 years of doing the wrong thing, kind of on purpose. And I just want to say, I think, and again, maybe I'm being naive, but I honestly think that I think that if the government started to do the right thing, started to do the right thing, you know what? I think that just the money would be there. The money would be there because they would stop. They would take money out of programs that weren't working anymore, like the Safe Supply crap that's going on. They would take that money and say, well, you know what? That's not working anymore. Let's pump that money. Let's redivert that money, put it back into PWD, and start doing the right thing on purpose this time instead of doing the wrong thing on purpose. We're going to do the right thing on purpose. And you know what? The money would be there. I'm convinced the money would be there.
Absolutely, Neil. I mean, you're bang on that. Is that just for instance, less strain on the healthcare system? My gosh,
100%.
It blossoms people's lives. People can actually be happy. They can put money back into the economy. They can shop local. Government keeps spinning that narrative. Shop local, shop local. Well, how do you shop local when you don't have the money to shop local? You say, well, I got a roof over my head, but I can't do anything else.
Yeah.
And, start respecting your citizens. I mean, we are citizens. Start showing that you prove that we are, just because we're disabled, I mean, are we citizens, or are we not? Or are we just not citizens of Canada any longer? If we're not, just tell us. Just come out and just tell every single PWD.
Yeah, just be honest.
Just be honest.
Just be honest and say that the PWD aren't true 100% citizens. Or like we're maybe 30% or maybe 30% a citizen or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not hard to basically tell the truth. I mean, but unfortunately, sometimes they find it very difficult to tell the truth, right? I mean, that's why the pink unicorns are running amok.
Let's go back. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that quote from Terry Glavin.
Yeah, again.
It isn't just that the truth. It isn't just that truth doesn't seem to matter, but that the truth not mattering doesn't seem to matter.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And again, that to me, as a truther,
I love that.
As a truther, I love that. I love that.
Oh, totally.
I want to blow that up and put it on my wall somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That's a great banner to put out there. Because, I mean, bang on that one, sir. I mean, bang on that. I love that quote. I can echo that all day.
I'm gonna try to get Terry Glavin on the show. Maybe I'll reach out to him.
I would love to have that.
Because I honestly, as soon as I saw that quote, I'm going, I love that. I love that. I want to put it on T-shirts.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyone that is an advocate on housing. I mean, if you're an ally to do with housing, I would love to have you come on to the show and talk about sky high rents. Your observation. I mean, if you're a real estate investor, or in the industry, talk about these rents and just break things down just so we have a better idea. I mean, I can just tell you based on what I've gone through in life renting and just going through lived experience scenarios. I mean, it's hell. I mean, it's hell. Corporate landlords playing games, right? I mean, some are good, and I'm not here to bash corporate landlords. I'm saying there are some that are really, they really are good, but there's other bad actors. And that's what John Horgan told me. There are some really good ones, but there's some bad actors, Brent. Some really bad actors. They'll put on a show. They'll say, yeah, this is perfect. And then you get in there and say, oh, what the hell? And he said in his quotes, what the hell, Brent? What the hell? And I said, well, so far I've got away from hell, but I've got into good. Okay, well, good. I said, but I also need you, John, as the premier, to listen to lived experience stories. I said, can you please listen to lived experience stories? He goes, so I'm standing here listening to you. He goes, and I will keep advocating. So current government, John Horgan said he will keep advocating, and he did the best way he could. Mm-hmm. And I want you to channel his momentum going forward. I know nobody can replace John Horgan, right? I classified John as a really close friend. I really got to know him really well. He says, as much as I'm the premier, you still have to hold me account, Brent. Okay, you need to kick my ass around the block. And I said, well, I mean, I'm not going to literally do that. I said, I'm not going to flame you on social media like really, really bad. I mean, because I said, he goes, well, if you did, I mean, I'd block you, right? I mean, not because I disrespect who you are. It's like, when something became very volatile, and then there's actions, unfortunately. And I said, well, right. I mean, I will call a person out. And I said, I've become to realize that over time, advocating that I can use certain words and not be scared about saying how I feel. Yes, I mean, some words that could be hurtful, and I apologize. I mean, I'll admit that sometimes I may say things that are hurtful to certain politicians, and I'm sorry. It's not on you directly, it's on the policy. But it's also holding the politicians to account, because people should not be suffering in Canada. If you can take care of your own union representatives and all your other members of parliament, or in provincial or federally, your aides in there that you need. I mean, do you need 9 aides inside an office, or all these other administration people? No. That's where a lot of the money is getting wasted. Yeah. I mean, I remember hearing from the ministry's office, and this is the part I want to kind of add on. But there's another part I want to mention about Surrey in just a moment. But when we were living in Langley, just for instance, and I want the listeners and viewers to understand something here, based on decision making, when you're told by a ministry's office, Brent, this is the amount going forward. This is the amount. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm like, oh, wow. So this is the amount. So we made our decision renting the place based on what the government is telling us. And so we rented it. And then you get an earful from your corporate manager saying, and where we were renting, saying, you told me, and yelling at me, saying, you told me this is the amount. And I rented you based on that you could afford this place to rent. Yeah. Well, yeah. They're like, so you're basically telling me that the government lied then? I go, I'm just telling you the truthful information. And they're like, oh, can I? So she made a photocopy of it. So this is the amount. And I go, yeah. She goes, well, you told me. And so now the government's going back on their word. I go, she says, I would not have rented to you, and no offense, if I knew you could not afford to rent. I go, well, we afforded our other place, right? But now the rent is higher here. So my point is that if the government, if you're going to say something, you need to communicate with your ministry's office. Let them know that, yeah, this is the amount going forward, because it really puts the PWD into a bad situation when it comes to managers who want to rent to you. So going forward, I want to our listeners and viewers to know a piece of information that I came across before we ended the podcast today, and it's about Sky High Rents, a very well-known organization across Canada. They have a lot of chapters in different provinces. Acorn Canada, they have one for Acorn, BC, and they did a rally out in Surrey, British Columbia, just the other day. About corporate landlords being, because they're going to be demo evicted out of their places, and of course making room for new development. But they're told by the city of Surrey that, oh, there's lots of places that are getting built. They're going to be below market rental. They're going to be, people can move back into those places. Okay, when I say below market rental, are they going to be for what they were paying before? Because on the news hour, I was just actually watching this. They were saying that somewhere between $1,200 and $1,400 these people were paying. Are they going to be paying $1,200 to $1,400 back into a new place that's getting built? No, no, because I can vouch for that right here, right now. Yeah. If I move out of here, where I'm living right now in my building, I'd be paying a lot more. I'd be paying $500 more. Yeah, imagine that. I don't have $500. Oh, wait a minute. That's the shelter allowance. In BC. Yes. My corporate landlord, I was joking around. I said, would you take $500 if I were to walk up to you and say, can I rent here for $500? You know what I was told? There's the road, there's the sidewalk, keep walking, keep walking. Like, wow. So what does that tell you, government?
It really is laughable. It's laughable.
It is. I mean, yeah. I mean, they're laughing. Like, they were laughing. And I mean, I've had that happen from a few corporate landlords. And they said, well, we're just doing applications right now, but check back with us when the government gives you a rate increase.
Well, again, you know, this again will be the mic drop number 2, is that if and you know what, the money would be there if that was the case.
I heard that from one of the former ministers, who said there's 3 channels of money that the government can tap into at any point in time. And so when the government had said, oh, well, we're waiting a state-of-the-art computer system, it's going to pay all big payments. How about write an old-fashioned check? The money comes out of 3 different revenue streams. You can actually tap into it that way. Don't wait on a supercomputer to do it. And don't wait on the CDB, by the way, because right now, I heard through the grapevine that there could be a possible federal election on March the 10th. March the 10th, they could pull the plug on it. Now, you know, the regulations for CDB, they haven't even been put through. How the application process. Federal government, do not pull the plug. Get the regulations done on the CDB first.
Just think of all the wasted effort.
Brent. Oh my gosh, because that's just going to prolong the whole thing way down the road. People are suffering now.
4 or 5 years down the toilet.
5 years. 5 years.
5 years down the toilet. Yeah.
When I started the Twitter space back in 2022, January of 2022, the first thing we started talking about was about the CDB. We started talking about the CDB, about DERB. That's where DERB was born, everybody. That's where DERB was born. The concept of DERB, Disability Emergency Response Benefit.
If you look it up in the dictionary, your picture is beside the name, Brent. DERB, it's got your picture beside the name.
Yeah, and I have pins, everybody. I have pins. I have a whole bunch of them. So if you want some, let me know, and I can get them sent out to you. I can't send them all to you, but I do have a bunch of pins that you could wear proud I'll do my best to try and get them out to you. If you're locally within BC, the next time when I do make my way out to Ontario, yeah, I mean, if you're in the area, and I'll network and let you know, and you can meet up with me, and I can give you some DERB pins. I'd be more than happy to, because I have the supply person who got those to me, and you know who you are. Thank you on that.
Yeah.
I handed them out in BC too, and people say, "Well, I'm gonna wear it proudly on my shirt." They're like, "Where is DERB?" I go, "Oh, but Krista Freeland said they couldn't do both. They couldn't do DERB plus the CDB." Well, newsflash, you haven't done either one. Wow.
Kind of like the grocery rebate.
Well, oh yeah. I mean, but Carney, where are you? What's your view on the Canada Disability Benefit? What's your view? Krista Freeland, what's your view on the Canada Disability Benefit? This is an invite for you to come on to PWD Allies podcast. Neil will send an invite out to you.
Yeah, I've been sending out invites like crazy, so I'm waiting to hear back from a whole bunch, hopefully, but I keep sending them out. Yeah.
Any of you who have received an invite, definitely reach out. I mean, love to get you on here just to get your view on where your stand is on supporting people at no less than poverty level financial support in Canada, people with disabilities. There are seniors, and I'm going to be talking more this year about seniors with disabilities too, because I mean, the media doesn't talk about that. They just talk about seniors. They don't say seniors with disabilities. I don't know why. I know government doesn't like to talk about people with disabilities lived experience very much at all, or next to nil, especially the media bringing it out. So, and this is your source of where to come to. This year, I mean, we just want to keep pushing forward and bringing on new stories. Like, I mean, what people are going through. Like, they keep us updated. What's going on in your life? Prominent people. That's what our goal is for this year, is to get you onto the show and find out where do you stand? Where do you stand with this? Are you going to allow this to continue? Because it can affect anybody's life at any time. Anyway, I'm going to be ranting, raving, so this is my cue, mic drop of saying
I'm going to send out the cane, Brent.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating that, saying that people having to go through agonizing decisions of high market rent versus buying the groceries, basic necessities in life, paying their bills, trying to figure out how to come up with basically home insurance. I mean, for your place. I mean, you name it. I mean, just getting around, having a bus pass, like we mentioned on the last episode.
Yeah.
Opting out of a bus pass just so you have your groceries, but now you can't get around.
Yeah, I just think it's like they did it for equity to make it it's simpler. Now you have to do the opt in, opt out, opt in, opt out, opt in, opt out.
Oh yeah.
So stupid. I mean, they probably have like 60 people hired on to do all this opt in, opt out crap.
Oh yeah, and they're just back laughing about it, going, "No, yeah, hey, seniors,
they saved a shitload of money."
Oh yeah. Well, let's waste more money by sending out stickers too. Oh yeah. Find other ways. But I want to thank each and every one for tuning in, listening to our show today. As usual, check out the like button on the bottom of your screen there when it's live. 24 hours from now, it'll still appear on the comments section for the like, and you can definitely.
And there's the little heart with the $sign if you want to contribute or buy us a coffee thing. You can do that. We appreciate it. But again, for people that missed it, we're up to 2,000 subscribers now, which is great.
Impressive.
Really love it. We love everybody that's on with the ride with us. We really appreciate it. And again, happy. I was almost going to say happy Thanksgiving.
Oh,
happy Valentine's, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Definitely. I'm hearing positive feedback around the community, people that in my community that do watch the podcast. They love the content. So I keep pumping out more shows. If you want to come on, reach out.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone. Take care.
Thanks.